Alright, I know you just tapped on the video, but I want to be upfront immediately. This video isn't about deep diving into evidence, and lastly, this video isn't going to definitely tell you if they're X or Y. What this video is, however, is exploring thoughts about identity online, either the sense of a mascot or a faux personality, and I'm just going to leave the exposés to somebody else. But I, Dovin, and my friend Mangoso, who read my fans' responses later, will be deep diving into the topic of the situation, or actually the meta topic of the situation. Also, to try and make this more formal, we're going to shorten Pumpkin Gentleman to PG and use more gender-neutral terms for their identity. Is that okay? Also, do not attack anyone mentioned in this video, and if you have something to say, just leave in the comments and just argue there instead. Now let's get started. March 17th, 2025, a supposed dox of PG was revealed. It was claimed that the adult cis male was actually a minor cis female, accompanying it with pictures of the person and messages to their father about what was going on. I won't be showing any of those images for obvious reasons, but as quickly as the images got posted, that account would be suspended. Not only that, PG's accounts would seemingly go away as well. For those new to the situation, you might ask, well, how hard is it to prove who they actually are? Which, not so easy, I would say. To start off, PG wouldn't use their real voice in videos, opting for text-to-speech.
Today's lesson, and I even prepared tits for this one.
Next, they wouldn't fully show themselves, either cropped images, drawn, or heavily zoomed in photos to be shared online. That part we'll get back into later. That's why, as of the writing this video, many people covering the situation cannot fully prove one way or another the real identity of PG. Now that we're all caught up, we can dive a little more into the meta discussion of the narrative. And if you stop drawing for a second and look at the screen, you can see I'm sitting on my iconic couch, and now I sketch your attention. You should tell me what you're working on, because I read the comments. I want to know what you're doing. What are you doing? But anyway, with a faux identity, you will never be truly connected with your peers, as there's a part of yourself that is being hidden or revealed in a third person sort of way. Now, for a lot of this, I'll go into the assumption that PG is using a faux identity for the sake of argument. If they aren't, then no worries, as I'm just kind of using this situation as a catalyst to talk about some other stuff I want to talk about, so buckle up. If PG presents themselves as a cis male, any experience tied to their cis female life couldn't be described in a first-person view, unless the true identity be revealed, as those experiences would have to be filtered through the identity they created online. Say they experience a form of misogyny IRL one day and want to relay the story. They might have to attribute it to someone else they know rather than themselves. With this, they can vent, but the peer isn't any closer to PG. This actually creates a soft lie over time. Of course, there is the possibility that they're trans and feel more connected being a male online. That can definitely be the case, that they created this account as a way to connect with their truer self. With that, they can relay their IRL experiences in a more truthful manner, but only if they mentioned prior about them not being cisgender. It's only speculation, of course, and I don't want to force anyone to come out if they aren't ready. I just want to touch upon that aspect when it comes to talking about what it means to have your identity online. In this house, we have the pride flag hung up, but it's the gamer ones, you know, I also play Mario. One aspect, however, is much larger than that, which would be their age. Many videos about PG prior to the possible reveal talked about their weird not safe work posts, their thirst traps, their flirting, and other parasocial online behaviors. Also, either flip-flopping between being a 16+ account and an 18+ account about what they draw. But all those videos were framed at the idea that they were an adult. But to dive a little more into that aspect, Pumpkin claiming to be an adult is the perception that their peers accepted. If any artist flirted with them or shared not safe with them publicly or privately, it leaves a sour taste in their mouths for the possible reveal. Such an artist would be that of Goat Cato, who was devastated upon hearing the news. That they want answers from BG, as they share not safe work stuff privately as well as general venting. To make it clear, Cato is not at fault, as they didn't know that PG was potentially lying about their identity. I can't imagine what they're going through, and there should be some solace that is not their fault for the actions of another person. Obviously, of course, a minor getting to adult spaces is nothing new, but to hide your age if you are a minor leads to an unsafe environment for you and those around you. You can be endangering those in the community as well as yourself, as people might ask them to draw not safe work thinking they're speaking to a fellow adult, thus accidentally conditioning them to draw something that they really shouldn't be. Talking about this, we can actually circle back to the greater idea of identity and a mascot character. There can be the case that the artist used the Pumpkin Gentleman persona just as a mascot and nothing more, that they didn't want to be who they are in real life for one reason or another. Perhaps they want to escape from their home life and just to be someone else. For the mascot idea, there's a spectrum of how into the character you are. As you can see on the screen, if you look over for a second, I'm a bunny drawing, and I'm gonna break the fourth wall to tell you, yeah, this isn't me. This is an avatar. I'm not like pretending to be this character. I'm just a guy IRL. And my real voice is connected to this character. I just use it as a mascot for my channel that you can like and subscribe right now if you want to. And I'm just letting you know right now, this visual character isn't real. I don't even own a blue hoodie, which maybe I should for like convention purposes. But anyway, with my voice being attached to the character, you can more easily identify me. Forgetting of course about voice cloning, but that's a whole nother can of worms I did not want to get into right now. For PG, if they are using this as a mascot, then they never rewrote character. Not even privately from what I've seen, opting to not use a microphone for voice calls. For the TikTok and YouTube videos, they'd use sort of text-to-speech program, adding a separation to the IRL and online self. Keep that part in mind for later. The accolades and trust from peers is attributed to how one presents themselves online. People followed the persona of Pumpkin Gentleman for their art, but also the idea of who they are in their minds. That PG is a bisexual adult, kind of hefty, chubby man. Side note, by the way, when I was typing the script, Google was like, "Don't you mean fat?" And I'm like, "No, Google, that's not what I meant. I'm the one typing this." But anyway, back on topic. For your peers and fans to address you a certain way, you inadvertently create a form of imposter syndrome we do not often see. You wake up, create, and converse with others online with the thought in the back of your mind that the people around you aren't truly there for, well, you, but rather the identity you created, not your IRL self. There lies a disassociation that can be very dangerous, that you can act a certain way without fear of any true consequence. Or like I mentioned before, the connections you make aren't as strong because you're playing a character, even inadvertently. Upon revealing, in this case, that they're potentially a cis girl minor, I'm unsure of how that would go about online. What explanation would one have to justify the lying or mistruths over time of being the creator? Do you have to accept that people may and possibly will leave because you deceived them? This circles back to the feeling of keeping the identity intact, not for the purposes of IRL escape as mentioned before, but for the fear that you cannot even be your true self online. They have created yet another world where you cannot be your real, authentic self. I think if they did reveal who they were, there would be some sort of action to tell them to, well, leave. That with their backlog of not safe work and weird behavior, they would get bullied and harassed in yet another way. So I can understand why, if PG's identity is different IRL, they might want to keep that, well, quiet, even if it wasn't feasible in the long run. This isn't to forget that there are people who have mascot characters that people just assume is them, such as the case for the Twitter artist Paragore, who has a self-insert woman OC character, despite them being a cisgender guy. You can actually clarify this back in March 2025. But because of this possible falsification of PG's identity, as well as the newfound information about their hacking of the many accounts, it's actually a bit hard to know or prove who's the real them. As mentioned before with the doctored images and text-to-speech, it would take more to prove oneself. There was that card that claimed, "Yes, that's me," and it was in the bio of their Discord, but then they said actually it wasn't me and it was a hack, and it's like, I don't know who to believe. The only way I can think of proving that identity in some capacity is maybe turn on their webcam or recording a video of the phone showing their drawing software and be like, "Hey, here's the layers. That's me." And when I'm doing like a speed paint drawing live stream, to be like, "Hey, that's me." But as of this moment, whether or not they should or not is up to them. If we are to believe the Discord messages, then they seemingly are gone for now. And of course, as they're writing this video, we don't know if they'll come back yet. If they do, however, please update me in the comments and maybe I can make a follow-up video to the subject. But before we get into the final thoughts, I want to see what you thought about the situation, and Mangoso is going to read it, and what do they think about the situation?
Used to be a mutual of his, and I find his situation to be just gross. I'm not quite sure what to believe, however, if it's true he was a minor in adult spaces. I find it insanely gross that the response was to fully dox him and brag about getting a 16-year-old arrested. It's so gross that instead of getting a child to safety, people would rather cheer and celebrate over defeating an evil teenager who has been the subject of a lot of unfair harassment. This isn't to defend what he did if it's true though. As an Arrow/NSFW artist, one who often explores taboo themes through art, it's hella gross that someone would do that and for so long. But I still think a grown-ass adult bragging about publicly doxing an alleged minor are no saints either. They're lolcow people after all. These are just my 2 cents from someone who isn't entirely informed, so take my thoughts with a grain of salt. This is going to be a long one, so buckle in. Oh man, I gotta get some water for this. I feel the hate and dislike towards Pumpkin, even if justified in some areas, has gone to an extreme point that no one recognizes. Instead of simply blocking someone and moving on, people feel the need to bully and make fun of someone on the internet. I'm aware Pumpkin has done and said things he probably shouldn't, but with the doxing now, it all feels too much. Speaking of the doxing, it's a bad situation no matter what angle you look at it from, and only makes the situation worse in my opinion if Pumpkin truly is a minor. People not just only dox a supposed 16-year-old, but the people in danger, including Pumpkin/the minor's family. If they truly wanted to prove Pumpkin was a minor supposedly, then you should have thought about this and more carefully, without endangering the livelihood of innocent people. There's so much more to say, but I don't want to make this too long, so I'll leave it at this. TLDR, you're not obligated to like everybody on the internet, but when you allow your dislike to manifest in despite and uncontrollably, you need to take a step back and ask yourself, is it really worth it bullying someone online just because I personally don't like them/their content? Not gonna lie, even with the errors he made, I can't help but feel bad for Pumpkin Gentleman. I can see that he initially didn't know how to handle his huge following on social, credentials, and I can get why so many people lost faith in him after what he did. Could have easily put everything he did under a rug and minimized the problems, but the fact that he instead properly apologized in multiple videos and actually learned his lesson is really a good thing. I often looked at the comments under his TikTok videos and I was shocked at the number of people who were obsessively mad at Pump G, saying that his apologies are not enough, that his art style is ugly, that he's making up the traumas he lived in his comics. Some even going as far as saying that he was faking to be black because he claimed multiple times to be Japanese, as if black Japanese people don't exist in real life. I think that the stupidest comments were the ones under Pump's redesign of Sonic female characters. One of them saying that Pump has an obsession with fat because he drew Vanilla Rabbit chubby. Really? That was your problem? I really hope that he's healing from what happened earlier, because doxing a 16-year-old girl to try and put dirt on Pump G isn't even pathetic at this point. It's just straight up evil. What a messy situation. Really, I don't know what to add to something like this. As somebody who's been an artist online for a very long time, starting as a teenager, I've learned that over the years that having to build an audience through your work does carry some responsibility, especially with your content and how you act and or express yourself online. It's definitely not uncommon for people to have mascots to interpret themselves on the internet. I mean, just look at me. Do you really think I look like this in real life? Pumpkin's many controversies aside, because there's really too many and I'm really not informed enough to say, I just gotta point out that it's insane how this situation has led to pure espionage of minors. I mean, this guy can't even vote. If they lived in America, of course. I wouldn't blame him for abandoning ship and burning everything. Just seems like another really messy, gross, and bully-centric approach online.
Like I mentioned before, this video isn't here to prove whether or not they are what the leaks say they are. I just wanted to use this topic as a catalyst when it comes to mascots, identity, and what one considers to be their true self online. Now for PG, there are a lot of aspects we don't know, and perhaps never fully will. This isn't to say that anyone without a microphone or someone who chooses to keep aspects of their life offline is lying about them or the situation. They could just be exploring who they are with their personal identity, or just want to live a more neutral life on the websites. And don't be going all transphobic or trying to get someone to out if they're not ready. And someone can be as anonymous as they would like to be. But thank you for listening to this video and just wanting to explore my thoughts about what it means for personal identity. I wish them the best with how they choose to continue on the internet. Do not wish ill will on them or anyone else involved, as to mock and berate is not going to help the situation at hand. What I can tell you, however, is to keep on drawing and creating with your own stuff. Like how outside of these videos, I post and draw in blue sky. Wow, fun drawings. But that's it for now. Until next time, see you later, and have a great day. Goodbye.